And what I find really interesting and really fascinating about this Down to the Wire tournament as a whole over the past weekend here, the casual setups were occupied, but not really. And what ended up happening is that during the tournament, everybody stopped to watch like the finals, or they would watch other matches. You know, like everybody was supporting each other more at a local than what I'm used to. And I think what I remember in Street Fighter V era was everybody would play and they would immediately just go run casual somewhere else.
For me, it wasn't any boredom or disrespect to any of the top players. It's just that when I was coming up, I wanted to play, as much as I could. And I think part of that could be the online experience from 4 was terrible. So when I got to a tournament, this was my time to play the people that I wanted to play. When we're all at the police station now, I could go home and have good matches with any one of you guys. So I'm more inclined to spend my time at that moment watching versus grinding.
To the Absolute Guard podcast.
Yes, welcome. This is episode 54. My name is Benny, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host John, who is the Chun-Li to my Dhalsim, I guess.
Yes. Do those characters even interact in the lore? I'm not even sure, actually. I think Chun-Li is mainly paired with Guile.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, because I think Dhalsim mainly interacts with Ryu, so that's
well, in 6
connection.
it was Lily. I went through the arcade mode one time, and it was
oh,
Lily.
Really? I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah.
How do they meet? Like, what's the story there?
I think he found something with the I think it's Shadow or Psycho Power or something like that in where she's at, and then she's dumbfounded by him being able to float and all this stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I think you're supposed to go through arcade mode 3 times to unlock some stuff, because I did it once.
Oh, really? There's more story? That's cool.
Yeah, I think there's more stuff to do, or there's more stuff to art and stuff to unlock.
Ah, Dhalsim is their yoga instructor, says Thrasher in the chat. Cool.
Oh.
That makes sense.
Speaking of Thrasher, who do we have on the show today?
Well, we have 2 special guests on today. We have BigMac who is a strong, consistent top 8 player in our scene. He strikes fear in the hearts of his fellow Arizona opponents with his active, reactive Ryu play. What's up, Chase?
Hey, happy to be here. Hey, guys.
Hey. And then we also have Thrasher, who's another strong, consistent top 8 placer in our scene, and he's also hot off his most recent win last weekend at the first Street Fighter VI Beer Fights tourney as part of Down to the Wire. What's up, Thrasher?
Hey, how's it going? It's good to be here. It was a fun tournament.
Yeah. And that's actually what I wanted to open with is so we had a tournament this past Saturday. It was run by Velociraptor, aka John Guerrero of Event Hub's fame. He's ran the local in Tucson at the local community center at the police station, and the turnout was pretty solid. It was 21 people, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and the big thing about it is the original plan for Down to the Wire was it was supposed to be an August monthly, and then that ended up falling on the same day as the CPT West Coast event, the one that Snake Eyes won. So John pushed it back a week, and unfortunately then that was the same weekend as Sabaton Con, Tucson Comic Con, and a potluck at UAT. And so there was a bunch of different events going on this past weekend, and a lot of people were pulled in different directions. Most notably in the Street Fighter 6 scene, I would say that we were missing Marvin, who placed top 3 in the last Down to the Wire tournament. He got second, rather. So yeah, that what ended up happening for that tournament, I believe it was Velociraptor in first place with JP, and then Flappy in second place with Luke, and then myself in third place with Chun-Li. Flappy, I believe he almost got a reset in the grand finals, but he couldn't reset it, and Jon took it without going to losers. So what happened after that was there was an organizer named Memo or Mo in our Phoenix scene who he has a hookup at his workplace for prizing for tournaments, and the tournaments are aptly named beer fights. So the reward is a case of beer or several cases of beer and merchandise and glass. So we got, so there, like, he basically rolled up in his truck and just unloaded like a ton of alcoholic drinks in a police station community center. So there was we did not consume it in the community center. It was just there. It was part of the prizing for the tournament. And at that point it was run later in the day. I think that there was a lot of discussion about like what beer fights was, whether or not it was going to be a full tournament, whether it was going to be a round robin, all these different ideas. But they ended up just having a second tournament, which ended up being a really brilliant experience for the community that attended, because the turnout for the second tournament, the beer fights tournament, was 19. And what ended up happening was, well, Thrasher, do you want to interject here and give me your storyline and like where you were?
Okay, so I was at home with the wife. We were kind of working out some stuff,
Yep.
Just deciding what we were going to do for like our 15th anniversary. Shout outs to her. Happy anniversary.
Oh.
Tomorrow is actually the day. So yeah. But so we were discussing what we were going to do, or if we were going to do something on that day, or, turns out I end up not doing anything that day, which is why I didn't make it out to the first tournament. So I make it just in time to catch the end of the first tournament, and I actually enter the second. The second was not your normal kind of tournament. Steve kind of just let it be the Wild West. He didn't seed anybody. It was random.
Oh yeah.
And it was kind of the hardest run I think you would have to make in an Arizona tournament. I think the only person who is like who was at the top of the last tournament, the previous, that I didn't have to play was Flappy. But first round, I got Velociraptor, who just come off a win, And then I think second round, was it Chase?
Yeah, we played it. Yeah.
Chase was second round. Then Porta-John is third round.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is the top four of any tournament in Arizona. And then, I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't think my next opponent was going to be easy. And I was wrong, dead wrong. That was probably the closest match that I had outside of grand finals, really, up to that point, was playing the X button, Maynard, who's on the screen right now. I was like, okay, cool. I get to play, Marisa versus Jury sucks, and I wasn't expecting much resistance because of that. Obviously, Maynard's a good player. I was just like, the matchup is too much. Well, he figured out some stuff since the last time we played, and it was extremely difficult and down to the wire, as the tournament suggests.
Hey.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then, of course, I couldn't go through the tournament without having to fight Porta-John one more time in grand finals. And
go ahead.
Those are the only two times I have wins over you outside of that initial day one non-beta character tournament.
Oh, Cammy versus Manon.
Yeah.
No, those matches were like some of the first match, you demolished me. It was a clean 2-0, and it just caught me completely unawares. And we're training partners. Like honestly, all four of us I think practice together pretty regularly. But like the last time we played, I think like you had also run a train on me, and then I had kind of like brought it back. So I had kind of assumed that it would be even, and it would still be a crapshoot, and it would be who was playing better that day. But then it was a complete dismantling and winners, and so I had to like really like recompose myself for grand finals. And like even then, I think it was 2-3, right? Like I didn't get the full on reset, and I think it ended up being last game last round there, but even so, like I didn't actually get the reset off. So I had some adjustments, I think, but then I think as we talked about after the set later on, like your ground game was what really stood out as the deciding factor for both sets, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's something I've been trying to work on ever since getting blown up by K-Brad at EFO. I lost completely in neutral to him, so it was like, and as we spoke before about it, it was like a habit that I had of just always going forward, and when I cross a certain line, hitting a button and never hitting anything else until I'm in range. And it's something I've been working on, and honestly, I've seen a lot of improvement for that, online and in local tournaments.
It's also worth noting too is that like your first opponent was Velociraptor, and Velociraptor is worth noting here because he has won. He won the first down to the wire tournament, and he won the second one, and he ran the whole thing. And he consistently places high out of state. He played I think he ranked the highest out of all of us for the most recent CPT West tournament. I think he got just shy of top 8 or top 16, so he got 17th place. So no slouch. So you were able to vanquish him, and then he fell later on to Sean Dude, and shout outs to Sean for that upset. I think we would all consider that an upset.
Yeah, 100%.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was done.
It does lend itself to this like really interesting idea that there were 2 tournaments that day, and the results varied so much, and the random seeding did in fact have an impact on that, as well as the fact that you were actually in attendance on the second tournament. I wanted to kind of look back at the first tournament as well and ask you, Chase, like how was your run overall? And we can talk about the second one too, for sure.
My run was pretty solid. I'm trying to remember everyone I played. Because I think what was my first match? Was at the Ryu play, right? Marty Party.
Yeah, Marty
and
Party. Yep.
Yeah, so we played it out. That was when I fell on my ass on the floor, but I like pulled a chair out and just assumed it was there, and then just landed right on my ass. But what's it called? Yeah, it was a good 2-1 set. Her Ryu's like really patient. I was surprised or just impressed, honestly. But I think after that, who did I play? I think I played Ish after that.
Okay.
Really strong Manon player. I took the set, but it was definitely close, especially with Manon. It's like she can build so much momentum so fast. So, and then after that, I played Velociraptor. He got me. I think what was it? I think he got me like it was 2-1. He took me out. I think definitely he was ready. I didn't. I was too impatient in dealing with JP's zoning. I should have maybe parried it a little more and try to kind of take my time once he was in the corner.
You had some killer jumps though. I remember that set pretty well.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting better. That's what I'm trying to work at is like because EX Ghost is so good at just beating Ryu's Fireball outright.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the pattern for it and then like getting that read. But I got to do more than just like a heavy read jump. But what's it called? And then and then did we play John?
Oh, we did actually. Yeah, we
Yeah,
did play. I forgot about that.
I think that was my last match. Yeah, and then you got me a 2-1, but it was good. It was good. I was playing all right, but yeah, I put up a fight, but it was good. It was good. I was decently proud with how I played, especially because last tournament I think I got 7th, and then this one I got 4th. So I saw some improvement. And then I think the beer fights one. Shoot, I forgot. I know I played Mo the first game, Ryu Mir again. It was good. And then I know yeah, Mike took me out. Damn, I was watching footage too. I watched footage of the last time. Did we play? I forgot what tournament we played or something. I was like, all right, I got to do this, and then like I take the first game, and then Mike just adapts and like bodies my ass. But and then I played in losers. I played Flappy, and he got me. I mean, he's always on point. So, but yeah, I was overall, pretty pleased. And then also, Flappy didn't want his beer, so I took that off his hands like a good friend would. But yeah, it was good though.
Very cool. I think
So how was
Yeah.
your run, John?
I think Flappy is probably the number one like way to describe my run. So I just played Flappy a lot. Shout outs to like the other opponents that I played. Like I played Tony and Carlos and Ish throughout the two tournaments. But I did play Flappy twice in both tournaments. In the first tournament, he double jeopardied me, and in the second tournament, I double jeopardied him. So overall, he won more games than I did because the first tournament he won a 3 out of 5, and in the second tournament I won 2 out of 3s. And then we can talk about the team stuff later. But that's actually that's going to be a fun conversation. But overall, like, and then he ended up taking second in the first tournament and taking 4th, I think, in the beer fights tournament. So, and then he's also like hot off of a recent strong performance at Game On Expo, where he got second in a bracket of like 130 people. And he qualified out of his pool at Evo. So, Sam's definitely up there as one of the best players in the state, in my opinion. But yeah, that would be the best way to describe my journey outside of like the matches that we've already talked about on the stream here, as far as like, my matches with Mike or my matches with Chase. I did not get a chance to play Jon in bracket, Velociraptor in bracket. We played casuals afterwards, and I'll fully admit I wasn't actually able to take a game off him. I think I won like 2 games and he won like 10. So it was not a good look. So I have some work to do there in the JP matchup. I think I have some general like optimization problems that I needed to work on. But the cool thing that I tried to practice that tournament, which is another topic too, is like when do we have time to actually try new things when there's a tournament every goddamn weekend? I was trying to do the button parry for DRC shortcut more, and it is actually very, very strong for Chun-Li because of back medium punch. Forward medium punch is really good. It's the same animation, but doing it from a walk back stance instead allows you to whip punish with it easier. And I just never used to drive rush cancel it because holding back and then tapping forward is weird. But if I have a parry button now, I can capitalize on that really easily.
Hey, can you explain a little bit about what it is that you're talking about there?
Sure. Yeah. So to drive rush cancel a normal, the normal has to be special cancelable, and then during that special cancel window, you do a drive rush. The drive rush can be performed by a dash forward, but in the patch that was in July, if I recall correctly, the Rashid patch, they changed it so if you hit the parry button during that window, a drive rush will also come out. That costs 3 bars, just like the other, just like a normal drive rush would. A normal cancel would rather. And then they also changed it where if you whiff a light button and you hit the parry button after the whiff light, or you try to dash after the whiff light, it will also trigger a drive rush cancel. So that was actually a nerf. So, you know, on paper it's like, oh, this is cool, I guess, but I already knew how to drive rush cancel. It's kind of whatever. But there is a benefit in that it allows people that have difficulty dashing after certain normals, and in my case it's a directional normal, to be able to drive rush off it and confirm off it easier, which I think is a big deal. So I was practicing that. That's basically it. That was my run. After that, there was a team tournament. Not team tournament, team battle. We experimented with the what's it called? The team exhibition mode in Street Fighter 6, like the single elimination mode where we had different teams put together. We ran 2 events total. I think it was just all impromptu, and it was just whoever was in the room after the tournaments. We were like, hey, who wants to do a team battle? I think we even played casuals for like an hour afterwards before we were like, hey, who's still around, who wants to do a team battle? And it was enough for a 5v5. Mike, you had a pretty decent idea about how to arrange those teams. Do you want to elaborate on how that first exhibition went?
Yeah, the first one was kind of inspired by what Benny did so many years ago. You know, he called it the Scrub Cup. We all have heard that story 100 times now, so I'm not gonna. but yeah, we, you know, John, Chase, Flappy, Raptor John, we all get the spotlight all the time. You know, like in the Arizona scene, like we're always at the top of tournaments and stuff. So it's like that one, it was to put pressure on, you know, Chase and Flappy were the only ones who were in it outside of the people I had just talked about. And it was kind of let them choose the team and let's see what the other, you know, the up and coming guys can do when everything is on their back and they have to be the one to perform under pressure. And we gave them pressure because we also sat behind them and yelled and screamed and talked crap and tried to emulate everything that they would get if they were to go out of state and perform with a crowd of people behind them, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think we were successful in doing that.
Yeah, I think that we have a tendency to approach these kinds of like I don't want to call them problems, but these situations in different ways, Mike. Where I think we talked about it once about good cop, bad cop, and where your measurement is their resilience and somewhat like the competitors' resilience and taking the existing folks we have in the scene and making sure that they can handle that. And on my end, I think a lot about engagement and motivation and being like, what can we do to get people to come out to the events more or to practice more, to be more excited about the game? And I think you need both. But what I see with the team battle modes is that I'll be blunt. I don't really like playing in them. I don't, and I think Mike, you and I all had a conversation about this earlier too. I think that they're difficult to organize, and I don't find myself learning anything new about the game per se. I don't learn a lot in a first to one set. So it doesn't feel like a very productive use of playtime for me. But everybody else I talk to that is not usually up in that stage loves those team battles. And I hear it regularly about we should do more team battles in their Discord because we've done it online as well. And if I compare like the different exhibitions that we had, and we'll talk about the second one in a bit here. This first exhibition with the up and coming players, as Mike put it, like people were hella engaged, getting hype, clapping, cheering, talking shit back after Mike lit the flame. So yeah, I was pretty happy with the way that turned out. It was also great because then you and I didn't have to play in it. And I didn't want to play it. But we made Chase play in it, and we made Chase one of the captains. So how was that, man?
That was actually pretty cool. I mean, usually, yeah, I'm like second fiddle or something, or one of the draft picks. But what's it called? It was cool being captain. My squad I was proud of like my crew that I thought we had some good talent. But who we had? We had Memo, Carlos, Tony, and Native Wolf.
Yeah,
And
you had 3 Ryus and a Ken.
Photos. We cover all
Yeah,
matchups. We
you're
cover
just
our
honest
matchup
team,
spread
huh?
was killer.
Cover all matchups.
And it's like what's it called? Like, cause it was cool, cause I mean we could only like or I mean I guess we could strategize every matchup, but it's like in the beginning you pick the one, and then we were kind of looking at the spread, and it was like two, what was it, two Jamies, a jury, Luke, I forgot who their last character was, but we were like, oh, Ryu does actually like pretty solid against all these characters, at least 5-5. So like, and then Memo could take the heat, and Memo was into it, so he volunteered to go first. He was our first Ryu up. Uh,
Yeah, he
but
really
it
set
was
the tone.
he was feeling it, and even like shoot, I forgot how the matches were going one by one. Outside of the last one when or one of the towards the end. Um, but I know yeah, even because I know Memo. Oh, Memo I think went or he won his first one and then he lost the second one. I think it was, but like even when he was in the crowd, he was a huge supporter too. He was getting like the crowd hyped up too. So I mean, everyone was into it just in general. But
Yeah.
yeah, we went. But it was like back and forth too. It was down to the like. I mean, it was down to the
Down to
cap.
the wire?
Yeah, it was down to the wire. But and then even because like how the meter carries over, it was like a whole strategy of like, oh, who's spending the cash,
Yep.
and then like we had Carlos up. He was the second to last one on our team, and
Yeah,
he was like, who do you play? He was playing what, X Button,
I think so,
and
yeah.
then he was not he had 3 bars the whole like match, and he refused to spend the cash, and then what, he ended up going the whole set, right, without spending it.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, he ended up saving it over and over and over again, despite all of us telling him like, "Hey, you need to just spend it. You're round 1 with 3 bars. Like, just burn it." But obviously, we're not always used to it. We don't have the same combo routes into level 3 that we would have on a level 1 or level 2. Yeah, but I think it ended up panning out really, really well because he saved
Yeah.
it. He needed it at a very, very specific time when it was about to lose, if I recall correctly.
Yes, it was up against Flappy. I think he was already down around, and he, what was it? I think he was in the corner and had to make the comeback. I forgot what happened, but I think he baited like buttons or like a throw or something with Dragon Lash, right? And then it punish
Yeah,
countered so he could convert off it, and then like he went into level 3 and he took it off that, and then he sent it to round 3. But it was pretty hype. Um, what's it called? I know Flappy ended up taking it at the end, but it was a pretty hype moment when he actually spent the cash.
yeah, yeah.
But
And that was
yeah,
the thing, though, is that it went all the way down to like Flappy, who was anchor on the team, and then he beat Carlos, who then like he was the last person on the team except for your anchor, who was you, right?
yeah. So then we finally duked it out. Um, what's it called? I mean, thankfully it was one game. Flappy usually has a pretty positive record against me, but yeah,
But you
I
can
just
win one.
yeah, I'll take the one. I'll take it and run. But um, yeah, but it was close. Just it was, the nerves were pretty on too. Especially it was like The Last of Us. One game. It was almost reminiscent of like a tournament set. But yeah, I was able to clutch it out. I think we went to last round, and but I was able to have enough meter to pop the level 3, get him in burnout, and then just kind of finish it in the corner, kind of chip him out. But it was a good asset. It was hype, and I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing that, and I don't know. I'm always down for more. I guess team battles in general are even. putting like prizing behind it or whatever we feel like doing.
Yeah, I again, people were asking about team battles even afterwards, and so we ran another one. And that one, like John and Flappy and Chase and Mike and myself all jumped into that one. And I was on Team Mike. And Mike, do you want to shed some light on that one?
So I forget who came up with the idea. I think it might have been Flappy or Chase, one of the two.
Yeah.
So the tournament winners need to be the captains. So John Guerrero and I were both captains, and I knew that obviously I would have picked you anyway, but of course it was sealed once Flappy was like, "I want to play John," and I was like, "Okay." So I had first pick. I picked Porta John, and then this allowed John to pick both Flappy and BigMac.
Yeah, P2 was like, I'll take the two captains.
Yeah. And then I honestly, it was already, it had been a long day at that point. So I'm trying to remember. I know I picked Tony, which I think, yeah. He was also on Chase's team, right? Yeah. It was like four Shotos and a Blanca.
The wild card.
And they got Maynard too, if I recall correctly. John picked Maynard, and so we got to see another epic Maynard versus Tony fight.
Yeah. Then I had I forget. I think his name's Chicken something.
Chicken Wizard.
Chicken Wizard. Yeah, he was on our team as well. Fresh new Jamie player. He's pretty good.
Yeah, I heard master level Jamie. Yep.
And I don't know. I think we also had Carlos.
Yes, we had Carlos too.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why we're having issues remembering some of the rosters because like there was a kind of a blowout too, right?
Yeah, it came down to Flappy, and I think Flappy ran a train on our team pretty much.
Yep.
He beat. Yeah, I don't think John and Chase had to play, so he beat at least 3 or 4 people.
Yep. He beat me. Yeah. He beat Carlos, and I think and then he beat you.
Yeah, yeah. It was that match was fun too because I had been watching him play, so I was kind of ready for the type of Flappy. So we both he came out, and I knew he was going to play like a dick, so I played like an even bigger dick. But he was able to kind of recognize that and slow it down much quicker than I was, and he took it. So that was one part of it that is kind of fun, is figuring out exactly which play style you want to throw at the person.
Yeah,
because it's not like you have time to adapt to anything in the first one.
No, it's just like a raw rock paper scissors at a certain point. Which is fun, it's exciting for the team thing, and just doing some kind of reflection on the event as a whole, but firstly on the team event. John Velociraptor is in the chat right now on our stream here saying, it was a lot of fun. We should continue to do team stuff at Down to the Wire, maybe think of ways to make it even more interesting in the future. And I think that I examined the benefit of the team stuff. I was harping on it earlier about how everybody loves it. It does create this. It's something that we didn't really get a lot of in Street Fighter V, just to put it bluntly. We had team battles, but there wasn't a lot of pride as far as certain areas or whatever. We did the Phoenix versus Tucson, we did the Team Steve versus Team Abe thing. Team Steve versus Team Abe, actually, though, that is a pretty lasting rivalry. But I think that oh, go ahead. Even
though they're terrible at picking teams, but I'll just.
I do think that we it's just good for uniting the community as well as dividing the community, which is something that I wasn't expecting. I wasn't really down for team battles just because I was we're all kind of one team in a way, but it is nice to be able to draw arbitrary lines and then give people some new spotlight. And it's also good to reignite the old rivalries that resonate with a lot of the older crew too,
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it's one of those things. It's just like, yeah, like you've talked about in the past, like the Tucson Phoenix thing is, the lines are kind of blurred nowadays, right? Like it's more kind of a united front, and you guys train together, and it's more about our scene being better than SoCal or NorCal or San Diego or whatever, right? Like you guys want that's what you guys are aspiring for, right? Or aspiring to. So those team battles like that we do here, like in some ways, like I see it as motivation for some of those players too, because like, you have your local demons, right? The people that you always meet up in bracket that beat you all the time, and like maybe in a first to one in the team battle, you guys get matched up all of a sudden. It's just like maybe that first to one, yeah, that could be the springboard for you to be better going forward. Like if you beat them and you're just like, I've never beat this guy before, and all of a sudden you beat them in the team tournament, and you've got all these people supporting you and all this hype and all this stuff going on, and you're just like, okay, well maybe I can beat them in a set now, right?
Yeah.
Whereas before it was kind of just like, man, every time I run into them, they just destroy me. So it could be something like that, kind of like stokes the competitive fires in somebody. Um, I don't know. I've always enjoyed them. Like I don't, I don't really look at it as kind of like a learning experience, like you said. Like I don't
Mhm.
really look for team tournaments to kind of be like that. It's more just like let's just let's put some teams together and just run some games and see how it comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an opportunity, and I think that's something that that people don't think about as much. As sometimes it only takes just the one hype moment to really get somebody locked into getting better.
Hmm.
Yeah, honestly, I could pinpoint that to like Native Wolf for this tournament. I would call him like I mentioned Flappy because Flappy had an extremely strong showing, but as far as like up and coming locals, like I think Native Wolf has done nothing but continue an upward climb over the past couple of weeks here, and I think that the team stuff specifically, as because I've actually run a online team one with her in it as well. Um, she just styles on people in a first to one. It's just like, jeez. um, and so like there's moments like that where everybody gets kind of boosted, and like I remember being at Evo, and one of the really memorable parts of Evo for me was being able to play in a pool and then have my fellow Arizonan players cheer me on. Um,
Hmm.
and honestly that's a fun part of pretty much every tournament experience for our Arizona scene. But the team battles are just a good because like in a local tournament that never happens. The reality is that everybody else is playing their matches too, and it's not like we have a dedicated spectator crowd at our locals. Um, but the team battles I think kind of get everybody engaged and involved. And what I find really interesting and really fascinating about this down to the wire tournament as a whole over the past weekend here, um, the casual setups were occupied, but not really. And what ended up happening is that during the tournament, everybody stopped to watch like the finals, or they would watch other matches. Like everybody was supporting each other more at a local than what I'm used to. And I think what I remember in Street Fighter V era was everybody would play and they would immediately just go run casual somewhere else. No one would give a shit about the top players, and the top players were they were still playing their hearts out. They weren't distracted by anything, or or I don't think they were, at least. But like by and large it felt like there was a detachment between the top level players and the mid-tier players, and the mid-tier players just frankly didn't care about the outcome of the tournament. And that to me strikes me as like a level of complacency that we hit in Street Fighter V that I don't see in 6, because you see engagement from all players of all levels during all points of the tournament. And that's kind of blows my mind, all things considered.
Yeah, it's definitely. I was there. I was a lot of the time. I was the guy going to play casuals instead of watching the grand finals, and I think part of that was just we really at the end of things it was maybe the same three people winning tournaments. And I mean, I'm not saying that's not necessarily the case here. I mean, John's winning a lot of them, and then Porta John's winning the other ones. Like outside of the only one that I've won, like so. But maybe it could be the game is more hype to watch. It could be, you know, however many years of seeing those same matchups, because everybody 4 was more of a game where people just picked a character and stuck with it, you know, for a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it could have been that. For me, it wasn't any boredom or disrespect to any of the top players. It's just that when I was coming up, I wanted to play, you know, as much as I could. And I think part of that could be the online experience from 4 was terrible. So when I got to a tournament, this was my time to play the people that I wanted to play. When we're all at the police station now, I could go home and have good matches with any one of you guys. So I'm more inclined to spend my time at that moment watching versus grinding.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, because like, you know, that's been actually something been talked about in Twitter this week in terms of like the offline majors and whether netcode's been affected that. And yeah, you know, I find myself playing this game a lot more than I honestly expected to, because like with 5, like I quit basically after season 2, mainly because Evo kind of being pushed into August, and that was kind of my main motivation to play and, you know, see my friends and stuff from Alaska. And when I wasn't able to do that anymore, it was kind of like I kind of lost my motivation to want to just compete overall. Um, but yeah, I mean this game, like I find myself playing a lot more. Like my MR is taking a dive like every other day, and then I got to climb my way back up. And I'm having fun doing it. And it's just like, I don't know, maybe it's me as a more seasoned player too. Like I don't have a lot of negativity when I play. Like I can see like the reasons that I lose, and I'm just like, why did that happen there? Oh, it's because I did, you know, I'm in autopilot, or I did crouching medium fireball, and they have meter to just blow through that, right? It wasn't a true block string or something like that. And just like, you know, I shake my head at a lot of stuff, but at the same time, like I'm having a lot of fun, and like it really helps that the netcode in this game is really really good. So you know, the game's online for the most part. Like, you know, you get the occasional outlier, but for the most part, I'd say 95% of my games have been very playable, even from people far away.
So the game's more fun, it's more playable online, and so when we're out on an offline gathering, it sounds like that's not our primary reason anymore, and it's more to socialize, spectate, enjoy the company of other people, our community, huh?
Yeah, that's a huge point. Yeah, yeah, the social aspect. I mean, that's typically people's biggest reasons for the offline events too, right? Is they want to see their friends, and they want to meet up with people they haven't seen in a while. So, yeah.
I think team tournaments might actually be the future, or maybe like a team exhibition at the end of every tournament, just to like kind of cement that community bond. I'm curious to see what the rest of the. Oh yeah, also carne asada. We gotta talk about that too. Sorry, Sean just put that in the chat. Sean, dude, also like who is the primary liaison for the venue, and runs a lot of events for Tekken as well out of that community venue. He also provided lunch for us both at the first Down to the Wire with some pizza, and then some local carne asada at this most recent one. So we got to chow down too. So we got fed. We got to play in 2 tournaments, not just one, and we got to play in 2 team exhibitions. So that was a pretty good look, I think.
Nice.
Cool. Any last comments or thoughts on the way that team tournament, or the Down to the Wire event as a whole was run? Any reflections on the scene or the state of the scene? Chase?
I mean, I was pleased with it as a whole, like especially like when you consider like like you were saying, everything that was ran kind of, or everything that was going on that weekend. Like it's still put up pretty good numbers, pretty good competition, and even like yeah, I don't know. I was pleased with it. I think the team tournaments like add like another dynamic too. Like I love that like we can do a competitive tournament, and then it's like almost like a something like icing on the cake, almost like we can do a whole nother dynamic, but still like
Yeah.
everyone can enjoy their thing. But I don't know, I look forward to it. I hope that like team tournaments become more of like a staple in like multiple ways, whether that's or like a team exhibition or just like small teams in like a bracket scenario. But yeah, I I was happy with it.
Any final thoughts on the down to the wire, Mike?
Not really. I think it was a great event. I just want to put the disclaimer out there because the carne asada reminded me that everybody was full on tacos and I hadn't eaten any. So
that's what I blame my bad placement on in the beer fights.
This yeah, Mike he was just like, I didn't add, like, it was because everyone was in a food coma. That's why I won. It's trying to be all humble and shit. He won a stacks tournament.
But no, one more shout out to Sean. He really he's always been huge for the Tekken community, but especially after the pandemic, he's kind of stepped up and taken that role for pretty much the Tucson FGC as a whole. So, and you guys got to see kind of what we see all the time. So,
yeah, I think that Tucson has a bigger fighting game scene in a given moment. But Phoenix has more scenes, more locals, and everyone's spread out a little bit more. I think Tucson is also spread out, for the record, but I think that the culture of the community is based around that police station, which is a free venue, and it's like you can't get much more grassroots than that. So like they're in good shape, I think, and I would encourage anybody in the Phoenix scene to pay them a visit, because their flavor of FGC is different than the current Phoenix flavor of FGC, and quite frankly, it's more reminiscent of what I grew up with as far as the FGC community vibe.
That's kind of the vibe I get from like when you guys talk about it. It's just like I really wish I could make it to one of those, but just my work schedule, I don't have Saturdays off, so it makes it kind of rough.
For sure, man.
To have to travel down there, but I'm hoping one day soon I'll be able to make one of those. We'll see.
I mean, another incentive is that a lot of people have that same exact situation as you, Benny, in Tucson, and that a lot of them just don't ever come up to Phoenix. They're not, they don't have to, but we miss out on getting to play them. So it's always a good time for me to go down and play all the Tucson folks.
Yeah, I still feel a little disconnected from a lot of the newer players nowadays too, just because I haven't been to any real offline events. Like even the big TGZ event that happened, I'm hoping to make the one this month, but I didn't make that one, and that was like almost 60 players, and that would have been a great time to kind of. I'm the type of person, like, if I see your face and put a name to it, then I'll know you from there. But right now, like you mentioned all these other players, and like I don't know who they are or who they look like, and even the characters that they play. Like I kind of just know people from the Discord and like people I've run sets with that way. So yeah, I'm hoping to make it to more offline events soon. I might be. I was actually going to look into that too this weekend about hosting another monthly at the end of this month.
One more thing about Down to the Wire. This was also one of the first. Is it the first? This might be the first local that was streamed. I think that TGZ has had issues getting a stream going with the high refresh rates on the PS5s.
My local was streamed.
Your local was streamed too. You're right. Your local was streamed. You had the first local that was streamed, but this is the second one. That's the second one that was streamed. And that's actually the footage that has been playing in the background on this podcast episode. So shout outs to the X Button for carting his whole PC down to Tucson and setting it all up and streaming it.
Nice.
And as of yet, we do not yet have a local tournament that has streamed with commentary. So
yeah,
some event there's an achievement to unlock there for another event down the line here. Someone should race to that.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, that's like recent news, recent podcast, or Arizona fighting game scene history. And then we also, as for this show, it was originally going to be a very unique show in that the online World Warrior event for Wednesday Night Fights is going on tonight, and I think there's like going to be a total of like 4 or 5 of them. It's almost like a Ranbat point system, so it's important that everybody plays in them.
Yeah.
And I think like top 8, you accrue points over the season, then top 8 play in a regional final to get a spot in Capcom Cup. So that is a way to qualify in while also supporting grassroots locals. Well, it's an online tournament, so not really. You're supporting Level Up. The Level Up does do good things for the community. So, so the original plan was for a lot of us on this call to enter that tournament, and then it collided with the podcast taping. And so we were like, let's just do a live version. But then I can't read, and so it's actually occurring afterwards. So we'll actually have another episode that will be uploaded later in regards to like what our actual tournament experience and playing in an online tournament is like. Spoiler alert, it's more fun with friends. And I'm sure we're going to talk that one through, because instead we're going to just talk about like kind of just a general online tourney lifestyle. We spend so much time on this show talking about our local scene, but the reality is that the fighting game community has transitioned to an online only model for a lot of events. And so we figured we could just kind of talk that through, and I think Benny, you had a bunch of different questions that you wanted to talk about on the show today for online tourneys, right?
Yeah. So I guess the main thing I was thinking about was like how much, especially with CFN being a thing now, because like people in the past have always wanted to kind of hide their gameplay and stuff like that. Oh, I don't want footage to be out there, right?
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't see what the big deal is, because I was just like, whether they find footage or not, I was just like, if they're the better player, they're going to beat you. So you might as well have footage out there for people to find. And, and at the end of the day, like it could be an improvement, a way for you to improve. Like, why did I lose? And like, oh, well, I was watching your footage and you do this all the time. Oh, that kind of thing. So I guess since Mike hasn't really done these, I guess the questions for both of you guys in terms of like, when you guys see your brackets and like, they're finalized and stuff, like how much scouting do you guys do in terms of like the players that you're supposed to be playing against?
Do you want to go first, Chase?
Yeah, I can go first. Honestly, not as much as I should be doing. Usually I just kind of, cause I don't know, like with like online tournaments, like even though there's importance around them, I don't know, there's like still part of me that doesn't get like as like, oh, I gotta like check lab this. I don't know. Like sometimes it's not as exciting. So sometimes I get a little lazy with my preparation. But yeah, I know they just like released the brackets, but it's like I would say generally I don't do too much research, but I should be looking at like especially on players on my side of bracket, like top players, like watching
Yeah.
their replays or something.
Yeah, so you're saying basically, as opposed to like in Evo, or if you're going to like an offline tourney, like you do more research there, just because I guess if you think about it, like you're more invested in that, right? Whether you're traveling, putting money up to go there, that kind of thing, versus sitting at home in your underwear and like, all right, who's next?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, like I just ate breakfast and now I'm about to fight, I don't know, so and so. Like, yeah, it's like because it's these online tournaments too. I don't know how many how's this? This one
I think
has
it's 200.
211.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but
they're
and
big.
then like the one Snake Eyes one, it was like 600 people or something.
Yeah.
It was something crazy. So it's like it has the same entrance as majors. It's just I guess it's just a mentality thing because
Yeah.
it's like you're in the comfort of your own home. But
I can see that. I can see that.
How about you, Mike?
For me, I don't really do it. I try and just prepare for the matchup as best I can, because in theory, the person is not going to bring anything outside of that. And I don't because I don't want to get like you happen to be watching them play their training partner and they do all sorts of weird stuff, and then when you play them they don't do any of that, and you're waiting for something that never comes. And for me, I try to play not against, try not to play the player as much as I can. It's inevitable, especially like in our scene when we all play each other 50 times a week. It's eventually I'm going to know when Jon wants a DP, or he's vice versa. He's going to know. The point is like not everybody's going to do the same shit, especially in this game. I've seen vastly different things between multiple different players. I see people play jury, and I'm like, this is nothing that I do. I mean, I do way different stuff than. So my point is like, know the character, know the matchup, and you should be fine. If they're better than you, they're gonna outplay you or adapt to something you're doing, and then it's more about knowing what of yours is real and what works versus knowing exactly when they want to do a certain setup, or a certain, whether they like the DP at a certain point, or if they favor a particular button. It's like, find all that out in the match, because if you assume somebody is going to play a certain way, a lot of times that can get you into more trouble than if you were to just play the matchup.
Yeah, like you can psych yourself out, right?
Yeah,
I can get behind that. I think that Smash GG offers a ton of tools for scouting. Like, it's got the projected bracket thing where it takes in all of the different entrants, like previous tournament results, and then kind of uses that to predict what the bracket would look like. And I've seen that done to, like, in a way to prepare for matchups. So like, I knew, for example, that if I won a certain amount of matches, then I would eventually run into in the most recent online tournament, I knew I would eventually run into Samurai, right? So I was like, if I had known that, I probably should have prepped for the Luke matchup more. Or like in a more like tangible example, like when I was at Defend the North, I was in the same pool as Ray, and so I was like, I need to practice this mirror a lot. And so I actually did go so far as to scout replays and actually like look at how Ray played. And then he ended up losing before I could get to him. So I didn't end up playing. It was weird. I ended up playing a Chun mirror anyway, but it goes back
That's
to
the one you expected, yeah.
Right. It goes back to what Mike was saying, is that like if I prepped for the matchup, and which is kind of what I did. I prepped for the matchup and not necessarily the player, because Ray is pretty good at mixing and changing his options. But the Chun matchup practice didn't go to waste. So it's like you could put all your eggs in one basket for scouting and stuff, but then like if the bracket doesn't play out the way you think it's going to, then your practice could go to waste. So if you focus on playing matchups instead, that's just going to be a lot more reusable, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, so basically, like, I mean, to me, like, I don't really have the time to really look at like replays and stuff like that. I mean, especially not for like something online. I mean, at the base, like, I mean, I guess we're all in agreement that we probably just look for like what character they potentially play, right? I mean, even though that could be switched on you at any moment too, right? But yeah, I would say like at the very base, right? Like you would just try to see like what character you're up against, and then kind of just take it from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's worth noting in our stream chat here, Regal brought up, Start GG projected might actually be seeding based. And seeding, like basically whoever's seeded in the tournament, they just kind of expect that the bracket to play out like that. It very well could play out like that too. One last bit about scouting, sorry, I just interject this, is that when you're traveling, and I know we were talking about online, but when you're traveling, I bring my Steam Deck, and then I just log into Street Fighter 6 and then look up replays while in the hotel bed before night. And it's really handy to have, like, I have a Street Fighter 6 replay viewer in my Steam Deck, and I just haul that around as opposed to bringing an entire setup. So that's the tech for hotel travel.
Okay, so I guess to kind of transition from scouting, so the next part is like, so when you're actually like starting a game against somebody that you've never played against, do you have because something that they do in NFL football, right, is like the coach usually has like a game script, and usually what that is like it's a set number of plays that he wants to run, regardless of what the results are, and it's kind of just to kind of see like what the defense is going to give him, right? Like, how successful is this, or did we just get blown up and like that's not going to work probably this game at all? Like, so do you guys have like a game script or something, or kind of like I guess kind of a something that you're trying to establish, like whether that's for yourself or for your opponent? Like, what are you looking for, like when you start a match?
At least for me, playing Ryu and then even in 5 with Sagat, it's like I'm trying to figure out where or if I can even like start like how I'm gonna approach the fireball game. So like I'm trying to diagnose like first how like jump happy are they, like how buttonsy are they, like how patient, and then like seeing where I can like fit in fireballs to that formula, whether to clip like normals or even just like if they're gonna stand there, try to chip, I guess, drive, and then or see if they're parrying even fireballs, like seeing how they're reacting to fireball in general. But I guess first I have to figure out if I can even get fireball off. Some players, or even in like tournaments, will like just willingly jump at you and like DI you. So you almost like just have to forego it sometimes and just be like, I'm just gonna straight up counter this because you're giving it to me. But then from there, yeah, I guess it's just like how do I capitalize on the fireball game, and then how can that lead into my offense, and then uh, try to get into the corner as quickly as possible and mix them from there. But yeah, I think it all stems, at least for me, from at least fireballs and just like figuring out a tendency on aggression.
Looking like a true Sagat player.
Yeah,
In the
All right,
end,
what
there's
about-
only the fireball.
we live and die by it.
All right. Then what about you, Mike?
So playing jury, I kind of go back and see if they're going to let me just stock up for free, and if they do, great. But most of my general approach is coming from what character am I fighting? Like what's on the screen right now, Marisa. I don't want to be anywhere near her, so I do my best to get my fireball game going, and then approach them with low normals that beat the Gladius, and work that, But if I'm playing a Dulcim, I'm gonna throw myself at them immediately, see how they deal with it, and whatever they adapt to, then I'll find different routes through the minefield. So the character is played multiple different ways based on matchups. So how I approach round one start versus Dulcim is not going to be the same as a Zangief, or a Ryu. With the Ryu, I'm kind of just like, all right, when are they going to throw fireballs? Do they throw fireballs? Can I just walk in for free because my normals are going to beat theirs? If they throw fireballs, it's like, am I going to parry? Am I going to jump? Do they throw one after the other? Is it random? Is it easy to predict? Like, there's
We're looking for patterns.
Yeah, but it's all depends on the character that I'm fighting. And I don't know if that's jury specific because she can both rush you down or zone you. But I think, when I was playing Kimberly, the game plan's the same, regardless of who I'm fighting, So, yeah.
I think
that's what it is.
That's something to be said
Matchup.
about mid-range characters, like the style of jury that you like to play, right? Where the ideal range that you want to stand at is going to vary, and on a matchup by matchup basis based on your opponent's normals, not just your own, compared to like a Geef or a Sim or a JP, where it's like I have a game plan that I want to try to execute out of the gates. Even Marissa has I need to get in. Like that's the game plan. Yeah. I need to get in. And then that can be that can be difficult though, because then the onus is on the Marissa or the JP. The JP in that case would be to keep people out, right? So the matchups I think are a little bit more clearly defined compared to a mid-range character, where you're like, okay, so I have to think about this normal and I play around this normal. I have to think about jury, crouch, medium kick, and so I would need to stand right outside that range. And that ideal range fluctuates, I think. So that's kind of what I do too. Is I just like I stereotype people, and I'm like, okay, this is their favorite range, and then I roll the dice on what that range should be, and sometimes I either change that range or I force that range over and over and over again if it's working for me.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess I mean, as a sim player, like I kind of just expect people to just go in.
Yes.
So I try it, like I don't know. In the past, like it was always like I should throw a fireball, but like I've noticed a lot of people are just like jumping just to start, right? And they just try to go in. Like I played a Honda earlier today, and they took me to the corner within like 5 seconds. It was like headbutt into like a jump in, and then it was like EX headbutt because I had thrown out a normal. I'm just like I'm in the corner already, and like this match just started. But I was just like, this is how he wants to play, right?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I made some adjustments. I won one game, but then they just kind of steamrolled me the rest of the way. But yeah, it's like I kind of just have this. I think usually, like, if you probably watch my replays, I usually just jump back just to start. Like, I want to see like what they're gonna do, and like almost like Chase said, like I want to kind of establish the fireball game, and it's something that you told me like again like it's like one of the most basic things, and you told me like, and it's helped me a lot tremendously in the last few weeks was just establishing horizontal space because like I was giving that up like so easily just to like float, and I was like, oh, this is my best place to be is to be in the air. But then when I'm getting drive rush juggled and then taken to the corner, I'm just like, okay, maybe this isn't the best place for me to be. And like I found myself like not necessarily like floating as much, and even like it's weird. Like I've even found myself like normal jumping more just because I can react to stuff, while I'm in just a normal jump state, and it's even awkward for people because like Dawson has that floaty ass jump, and it's just like you see him jump back or see him jump forward, and people are just kind of like watching him as he like, you know, crescendos downward, and they're just like, what is he doing? That's not like a typical thing. Like you expect him to teleport and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, the brief tangent is like I remember that the horizontal space advice, like it was presented to me initially as stand your ground, and that confused the shit out of me when someone told me that because I didn't know what that meant. Like it turned into like an emotional thing or like almost like a machismo thing of being like, don't let them boss you around or don't let them take all the horizontal space, stand your ground. But it took me a little while to like kind of, everybody learns differently, right? Because I think that probably resonates with some people. But taking up horizontal space is the way that I think of it too. That's the range conversation again, which is like, okay, I can take up this range, and how do they react to it? And do they walk backwards,
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, I was mentioning walk backwards is like in terms of like playing charge characters, right? It's just like,
yeah,
it's a difference between holding down back and then walking backwards to charge your moves. And it's just like, why are you walking yourself into the corner when you can do the same thing in a crouch position and, have your flash kick ready or have your sumo smash ready also? Like you should be doing that. Um, like my son's been playing DJ, and like that's something he does a lot. He walks back, and I'm just like, you need to crouch block because you need to have this ready to go as your anti-air. This is like your best anti-air is the up kicks, right? It's like that's your get off me move, everything like that. You should be charging that at all times. Be ready with that. So yeah, it's something. And I don't know. Like I said, it's just something that's like super basic, and like it was just one of those things. I think I even asked you at one time for like, you want to like watch me play one time and just give me like pointers. Like I don't need like super like specific coaching, but just like remind me about stuff. And like that was like the biggest reminder that I've gotten the last few weeks in terms of playing. That's helped me a lot.
Glad to hear that, man. Going back to online tourneys, I guess is there like a what am I trying to say? Is there a way that you prepare for online tourneys? Like, how do you prepare for online tourneys that's different than local tourneys? In like to the best of your ability there. Mike, do you want to go first?
Well, I haven't played in a whole bunch of them, especially since 6's been out.
Sure.
But I don't really like if one thing I started doing when a lot of tournaments were happening at the end of 5 was I would kind of get up, maybe, let's say the tournament's going to be at noon. I'm up at least 2 hours before that, if not more. And then I try and go outside, get some sunlight, let it wake myself up a little bit, get some like soda or something, whatever, to just kind of get yourself in that like that prime state where you're not like too jittery, which is something I've been failing at recently. Don't drink Red Bulls before tournaments. Yeah. But just kind of like get a snack, go out in the sun, walk around. Before some of the tournaments that we would play online, I would just take like a walk around the block and get the blood flowing, and then come back, warm up, get your hands warm, make sure you're hitting your basic stuff that you need to hit, and then be ready for the tournament. Like don't do that. I would say I would start preparing, do the walk around like an hour before, warm up 15 minutes before the tournament's kicking off, and then you should be good. But it's an online tournament. You might do all that preparation and then still have to wait 45 minutes after like your second match or something. So that could all go out the window. It's not something you can really prepare for, other than just don't like sit on the couch and start to fall back asleep would be my advice.
So you go. So recent tournament winner Thrasher here says, go outside and touch grass before you play online.
Become one with the earth. Soak up the rays of the sun.
You bring up a really good point, though, in that the waits are pretty long for online tournaments. I think that like objectively they're probably comparable to local tournaments, but it's way easier to pass the time locally, I think, because you're having like a social conversation, or like it's a social event, so you can have conversations with people, you can go and watch other matches and stuff. But in an online environment, like I can't just go and watch a concurrent tournament match unless it was like at the Battle Hub or something, and those have long since the ship sailed on that one. So like it's kind of isolating, and it takes a long time. I remember at the most recent CPT event, like both Jon and I like got knocked into losers towards the end of our pool, and then we had to wait for like, I think it was like an hour before our next matches. So by then we're cold and everything too, and it turns into that same kind of tournament longevity or tournament endurance battle that an offline local would have as well. It's just you're still sitting at home.
Go ahead, Cheese.
Oh, sorry. I was like, at least for me too, with the waiting in tournaments, like you were saying, it's like it's easier to like fill your time in an offline. Issue that I've had, I mean, it kind of still happens in offline, but mainly online with that waiting is like it gives you time to like get in your head too. Like
Yeah.
you're like, oh, if I who's next? Like you start thinking like, oh, who's like I have to play, like am I gonna play this, like because I have to play the winner of this match and this match, and then like the other side of bracket, who are they playing, and if I beat them I might make it out of pools, and now you have all these expectations you're putting yourself through, and like you're getting in your head. So then as soon as you play that match and like, oh shoot, I'm down, like they're on set point right now, you're crumbling because it's like you've put all this like extra mental stack on yourself for no reason, because like you're just sitting here alone with your thoughts. So it's like I feel like that's something that like online maybe emphasizes more than offline.
Have you done the thing where you've checked the projected box and unchecked it over and over and over again just to see stuff?
Oh yeah. For sure.
It's like a bracket anxiety or something, right?
That's what I did at Evo, because I was like projected okay for once, and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna make it out, and then like, and that's how you do your like, like guys were talking about earlier, it's like scouting, and then it's like things just get thrown out the window as soon as like someone like this like dark horse just whatever just wrecks the bracket, and then it's your whole mental stack's like out of whack.
Yeah. I mean, it's human nature to want to like look ahead in the bracket, right? It's just like, especially if there's a big name in your bracket and there's a bunch of randoms or nobodies, you're kind of like, well, if I beat this guy, then I get to play Wolfgang, or I get to play whoever. I get to play Punk. I get to play Nephew, right? And it's like it's human nature to want to go look at that and see that that's a potential opportunity. And like, yeah, I think it is easy to get into your own head. especially like if you're looking forward to playing that person, like that might be like the one opportunity you get to play them. Who knows? When's the next chance you're gonna get a chance to get your shot at them? Really?
Yeah, honestly. That's what actually even like some tournaments that do that's why I've liked have you guys done the Casa tournaments?
I have not.
They do like that ladder format. So it's
They
like even
do?
like yeah, they do
Ooh.
a ladder format now. So I like to enter that one just because you're it's like playing ranked but against high level players every single set. So
Oh,
Yeah, would
it's
you
kind
mind
of
explaining
interesting.
the ladder format to our viewers here?
So I think it's ladder, but yeah, it's like you pretty much enter because it's all ran through Start GG. So it's like you just they do like 4 levels and it's pretty much all just ranked matchmaking pretty much. I don't know how they actually decide the opponents outside of like I think it's just all players on the same level as you, but you pretty much like win based on if you win sets or lose sets, you move up certain levels or go down levels. And then
oh,
they do that for a 2 hour period. And then whoever's the top 8, like the highest placers, the people who did the best, they run a top 8 bracket for them.
yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty good. I feel like it's good practice at least.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like our kind of like boot camps, but the big difference with that format is that you're not constrained by the number of setups that you have compared to in an offline event where you can't run that many matches concurrently to have like a matchmaking pool per se. But it's
Yeah.
almost like an incomplete round robin in a lot of ways, right? You play
Mhm.
as many people as you can and then you get a total score.
Yeah,
So
I think it's
Huh.
based off like win rate they do it because like you could like I think join halfway through but win all your sets and still make top 8.
Oh wow.
if
I
there's
think
any
it's
oh go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's like you play a minimum but of matches to qualify. But yeah.
But it's probably more than two, which is what
Y-
you would play at a bracket worst case scenario, right?
yes, yes.
So
Yeah.
that's to any aspiring tournament organizers in Arizona. That's another untapped uh, market, I suppose, for our community. I think a lot of us would love those ladder kind of tournaments.
Yeah. Hey, can we get more games in, man?
Mm. Yep, very cool. Well, I don't have a ton more to talk about for the online tourney, and the big thing is we have to prepare for the online tourney that we're about to enter. um,
Yeah.
Benny, did you have any further questions about online tourneys for our panel here?
No, not really. That was pretty much. I was kind of just curious about how they approach things, because like whether it was kind of similar to what I do, or whether they were doing anything different. So, it's good to find that out.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask, do you guys ever have that that situation where like you're playing an unknown in a tournament bracket and then you get mauled for the first round and you feel good about it because you're like, oh my god, that guy just showed me everything.
I don't know. I feel that's like pretty much the majority of my ranked matches for the most part, especially against like a lot of the higher ranked players that I've been playing.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, I like I don't know. I'm slow to adjust to people, or like depending on the character. Like I'm in the corner against Ken or Cammy, and I'm just like, okay, well that round wasn't perfect, but okay, that's all I needed. I was like, okay, well let me see if I can like you said earlier, kind of stand my ground and keep myself out of the corner and see how well they play from there. And a lot of times, like you'll see people that just don't know how to deal. Like especially like Kimberly players that I played. Like she's probably one of the best in the game in the corner. And it's just like so I try to establish all the space in the middle and try to stay out of the corner as much as possible. And you find out real quick like who's the impatient ones, who's the ones that are just like sliding in or just kind of like I don't know. I feel like sometimes you feel like some people like you get that feeling that people are thinking, and then other times you just feel like people are just kind of just ready to do something, right? And like you see that like I always see the Kimberleys in the they're in the back and they're just kind of swaying back and forth, and all of a sudden it's just like teleport, and I'm just like, okay, are you coming? Are you sliding or whatever? Or what's coming? What's coming next? and it's just like I never feel like they have anything like really kind of thought out. It's kind of just like, all right, well, let me see what happens if I do this.
I really want to pinpoint that because that matches with the theme of our podcast so well, or this episode so well, in that we've been talking a lot about proactive versus reactive play. And I think that your question earlier, Benny, about, how do you approach somebody that you've never played before? And like a lot of us have a variation of a flowchart, right? Whether that's by leading with a fireball or by getting full screen or by finding an ideal range and then forcing that, right? And that, I think, is the sensation that I run into when I feel like someone's not thinking. I'm like, oh, it's not just that they aren't thinking, it's that they already decided, they committed to what they wanted to do before they had any input from me. And that's the basis of that good feeling that I was talking about earlier, where I was like, if somebody runs a train on me and I'm like, oh, it didn't actually matter what I did, they were just going to do this, then that makes it that much easier to counter, because you're like, oh, if they're not taking any input from me, then it's more predictable. If they're not paying attention to how I block or anything, then they're just going to do the same thing over and over again, or they're going to rotate through the same options over and over again without considering my game plan. And that's predictable and that's counterable. I forget where I was going with that, but yeah, ultimately it's proactive versus reactive, because Mike, you and I have been talking like offline about this, and just because we talked about the ground game earlier in our matchup, right? And I think one of the lasting conversations that we've had in regards to neutral is that when you played Kim and I played Chun, our characters clashed doing what they did best, and I think that's part of the reason why our matches were so enjoyable. And that Kim's job and her tool set is all catered to getting in, and Chun's job and tool set is all catered to keeping people out, and then mauling them once you do that. So they both maul, but the point is, in the neutral at least, so that would create a very proactive style from Mike and a very reactive style from me when we would play. And he's recently switched to jury, and that character can be played in multiple ways, and that's a significantly stronger character in my opinion. But now Mike has started playing reactive, and so what he'll do is he'll back off and force me to make a mistake, and then I in turn have spent since launch I've been playing reactive to how he plays, and so he'll stick out buttons or whatever, and then I'll just wait for them and then punish them, and then that's how I win. But he in turn waits for me to do something, and we get a stalemate. I get impatient, I have to play proactive, and that's unlike how I like to play usually, and then I end up running face first into something. I feel like there's this constant jockeying that we do whenever we have a strong training partner, of like, when do I play active? When do I play reactive? When do I play proactive? When do I wait to see what they're going to do? And I think that varies depending on your experience against the person too. If you've never played against them before, do you really want to play reactive? Because you're basically opening yourself up to something that you've never seen before. On the flip side, do you want to play proactive? Do you want to rush into a situation that you've never seen before? So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to skin that cat, I think.
Yeah, it almost once again comes down to matchup. Like it's a little bit more tough to play like against a Chun or somebody who is the same style of character, because it's like, well, they could come in hard or they could run away. There's no, it's almost like a dance. It's like you don't want to step on the other person's toes, because sometimes they hit harder than you. And like, so depending on the matchup, it's like, okay, I'll wait and see if they want to take the lead. If not, then I'll see if they can deal with my pressure, and vice versa. It's like, if they show you they're going to be aggressive, you have to play reactive. You can choose to kind of have a slugfest, but if that's not how you normally play, and that's the only way they play, why would you play to their strengths?
Yeah. It's a good point.
So that's how I think about it. And then obviously matchups will give you kind of an idea of, because you're not having Geef players run away.
Right.
So they're going to come at you. Or Dawson players. I mean, to be honest, Dawson, you could come in. Yeah. But chances are they're going to be trying to utilize space more. So I know I'm going to be the lead on what's happening offensively. So,
I mean, that's worth noting too, is that when we say proactive and reactive, that's not necessarily the same thing as offensive and defensive. I do think Dulcim is proactive defense, and that you are constantly using your movement, flying away, doing floats, teleporting, and sticking buttons out in order to prevent them from doing something, prevent them from getting in. So it's a defensive stance by default, but you are committing to things in advance, and that's I think the difference of having a proactive template at the start due to the matchup versus, you're not going to just stand mid-screen with Dulcim and try to play footsies, right?
Yeah.
Chase, I had a question for you as far as like your fireball game, because you brought up proactive versus reactive. Do you think that your fireball is an opener or a response to something in your mind?
Oh, I guess.
Question.
Yeah. I guess I would say both. It's just depending how you use it, because you could especially based on the matchup, if the opponent doesn't have great anti-fireball options, you can force it early and just, I don't know, I guess see how they play off it. I don't, but is that reactive or proactive? But
I don't know the answer, so that's why I just threw it at
yeah,
you.
that's why I think things but then I think Cammy, and then I think of I legit even Chun to a certain extent, where their anti-fireball is so good that I have to play almost more I almost view it as, I guess more reactively. Or no, I guess proactive in the sense that I need to, it's something I've been doing lately is I guess it's part of the fireball game, is I've been proactively throwing out donkey kicks, because
Yes.
the animation is similar to fireball, and it catches a lot of Cammies and a lot of Chun-Li's trying to do anti-fireball stuff. Still incredibly risky, but it's a tool. But
Yeah.
at least if you can establish that, proactively establishing donkey kick, then you can bring fireball in, and it's,
Okay.
I mean, seldomly too. You can't. It's not oh, now we're playing Fireball War. But it's
Yeah.
we can throw it out here and there, and at least establish the neutral a little better.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of the way that I play, I would say I'm very proactive in terms of fireball usage, because I want to see what they're gonna do, and especially with Dulcim having the arch fireball, and then also having the air diagonal fireball, it really kind of creates a kind of a maze for them to try to figure out, and it's just um, something I've been with lately is kind of altering the fireball speed. So I'll do the air fireball to kind of just establish, cover that diagonal space, and then if I notice that they're jumping, I'll throw out a fierce fireball, because it'll catch their jump when they jump over. Whereas if I threw a slow one, it's kind of just going to force a block, and so then that creates a whole different kind of situation for them, because then they're just oh well, I can't jump over this diagonal one without getting juggled and taking some damage. And I've gotten a lot of mileage out of that against Marissa and Zangief lately, just trying to get them off me and keep them at that distance. Was messing with those a lot.
Yeah, I hear two different things in that explanation, Benny. I hear that one, you're poking the bear to see if like with varying size sticks of like, you know, how do they react to this versus this, and is the bear gonna bite my head off or not? And then but when the bear inevitably does try to do that, you then use the same stick to be like, get back, stay away. So it's proactive and reactive, and it's both, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, my last question, and again, this is something that we started last episode, that I just said I want to do now, for every guest, is what is footsies? And there's no wrong answers. I just want to see everyone's because everyone's definition is different. But we'll start with Mike. What is footsies?
To me, I mean, it's kind of like a philosophy, right? Like, but it's like, for
It's
me,
a way of life.
it's just like, the way I think of it is, I guess I would put it the safest. It doesn't always have to be the safest, but I guess the main goal is to go from a neutral to an advantageous position. Or, and like, and that could be different. Like for Dawson, he starts in his advantageous position. So instead of going from neutral, you're trying to hold that position for as long as you can. With Jury, I am trying to do her really good offensive mix-ups. And so for me, like if I'm fighting Chun, I'm thinking, how do I get past her fireball and force her to give me an opportunity? Or can I sneak in and poke with my own little forward to create my own opportunity if they're not giving that? And it's like a bait and switch of what your opponent is looking for at that moment. Are they looking to be offensive, or are they looking to react to what you're doing and trying to exploit those to the best of your ability? Because the short answer is go from a neutral to an advantageous position.
And it's like a tug of war to be the first person to do that, or a race to be the first person to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's actually a really good point, is that like we spend a lot of time talking about the holy grail of neutral, but a lot of times the objective of neutral is to end neutral.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the issues with drive rush and drive impact start rearing their heads. Okay, cool. Chase, how about you? What is footsies?
I guess I never thought about it much, but I guess it's something similar of being like trying to get in a constant, I guess, maintaining an advantage or like getting out of a disadvantage through a series of like rock, paper, scissors like decisions. Like, because I feel like it's not necessarily rock, paper, scissors, but it's just like a series of like this beats this beats that, this beats this, like where like a mix-up character or like pressure also has its own set of like I guess decisions that you're forced to make. It's like neutral almost has its own like kind of predetermined options that you play with. So like sometimes like when people glorify footsies, it's like, well, it's just like another mix-up just with a little more like free form in there. But like it's just you're constricted to these set of decisions and you're playing this like RPS dance with them almost.
Yeah. Like spacing plus timing plus decision making. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to roll it up. And part of the reason why I even asked this question to everybody is because of how amorphous that definition is. So it's interesting to kind of see the differences there. Cool. Well, I feel like I'm going to be asking myself what is footsies by the end of this tournament, because there's going to be a lot of matches going on, I think, pretty soon here.
Yeah. Well, I had one last question real quick for both of you guys. What's something that tilts you or makes you crack when you're playing?
do you want me to go first, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, honestly, playing somebody I either perceive myself or feel that I'm perceived by other people to not lose to, and then have that match start to go sideways.
Okay,
Like,
so somebody that you're projected, or you should most people would say that you should be winning, and then all of a sudden, like things are just not going your way.
Yeah, it was kind of similar to like what I was saying when I thought the X button fight was going to be easy. I was like, okay, and I'm proud of myself for not necessarily cracking in that moment because it was way harder than I expected it to be, but I was able to pull through that. But so that for sure is like when I was coming up, I would always have my best matches against people I was almost guaranteed to lose to, whether it was John or like Nick or Mocha or Yusuf. Like those were when I played on point. I just didn't have the skills required at the time.
Yeah.
But if I was playing a random I didn't know and I didn't feel like I was supposed to lose to them, then I would get tilted by that.
It's like the psychological position of being in a position to upset somebody or having to defend against that. And that's tough, man.
And I try and keep it in my mind that like anybody can beat you at any given moment.
Yep.
You know, and don't beat like we've had that talk before. Don't beat yourself up about losses. And part of that is trying to not crack in that moment, or like, you know, feeling that feeling coming on when the match isn't even over yet. And losing to that, you know.
Yeah, it's something big in the sports too. Like, you know, in basketball, like, you know, it's like shoot or shoot, right? Like even if you're having like a bad shooting day, like you miss your first 10 shots, like just keep shooting, right? Or like a quarterback throws an interception, and like there's this thing about like having like a short-term memory, right? When it comes to those kind of things, because like that could be, like you said, that could be one round or that could be a game, and like all of a sudden you're down a game, but you got to kind of like put that aside and just be like, you know what? Let me play my game. Or why is it that I lost this? You know, maybe take the, you know, that character select screen time and be like, okay, what just happened there, right? And just kind of throwing that out of your mind and then just being, you know, resetting the situation.
Yeah.
Cool. What about you, Chase?
Something that gets me salty.
Or just like, I guess in game, like something that would like tilt you or you know, or make you crack. Like what's something that, like for me, like it's like when I'm in the corner and like if I make two bad decisions in a row and I'm like, you know, if I expected a tech and I get hit, and then the next time I'm like, all right, let me throw out a jab, and then I get thrown, and I'm like, okay, this is just going, you know, this is just going
Oh,
downhill from here. So what's something like that that causes you to tilt or to crack?
I guess almost like how you guys were talking about like preemptive versus reactive. Like if I'm playing, I try to play reactive, but if I'm playing someone who's just as like reactive or patient, like I'm like, I don't even know what, like sometimes I'm like, I don't know what to do at this point. Like,
Yeah,
and then I make like dumb errors because I'm like recklessly going in, and then I just get like frustrated at myself because I'm like, I'm just playing so sloppy right now. And
yeah,
then like or it's
Talking about
just
Christian, aren't you?
exactly. Christian has made me such a better like patient player because he fucking like just like damn, I was playing as Guile on what last Friday, and I'm like, oh my gosh, bro. But it's helped immensely. But yeah, it just like figuring out like if they're gonna like play that way, like I have to figure out a better way to let, or you know, if they're gonna play patient and I'm gonna play patient, I have to figure it out without getting tilted and like just kind of rushing bull rushing and then just getting like, you know, clocked.
yeah. Well, I can see that. I'm kind of in the opposite way because like I actually played a bunch of Ryus this morning, and like I was talking to John about this before. It's just like in the traditional games, right, in the older games, right, like there'd be fireball wars, right, and like you guys would just be chucking plasma and chucking fire back at each other. And in this game, like a lot of the Ryu players I play are very rush down heavy, and it's just like I'm sitting there and I'm just like, just throw a fireball. Like, what are you doing? This isn't how Ryu's supposed to be played. And I'm just like, well, if everybody's doing this, then you know, obviously they're finding some success, or maybe it's a matchup thing, right? And it's just like, well, I don't want to have a fireball war with Dawson because he's gonna win that, and his normals are gonna hit me from full screen, and I'm gonna get punish countered by getting hit in the ankles and stuff, right? And I guess in some ways I never really thought about it that way. I'm just like, I want them, I want them to play a certain way, and then when they don't, it's kind of just like I got to figure out a better way to deal with that, and like I have to alter my game plan and start looking for anti-airs more, start looking for like drive rushes and stuff like that.
I got a question for you, Benny. Just based on what you just said right now. If a Dulcim, if somebody runs away from you and you're Dulcim, how does that make you feel?
I don't really mind it. I've seen like
Okay.
it is the funniest thing for me to see people, for me to walk people down to the corner, because I got the slowest walk speed in the game, and like I'll throw a fireball, right, and like I see people just walk themselves into the corner, and then Dawson has that stupid like walk where his arms are waving like a gorilla, and I'm just like, why are you putting yourself in the corner? Like I don't know if they think that that's advantageous for them, or like maybe they don't think I have good corner offense, but like I love when people are in the corner because I think that's where I do a lot of really good work. That's why, like, when I get put in the corner, I don't really necessarily get upset about it because I'm like, well, I love when people are in the corner. So, why am I going to be mad about this?
So you don't feel uncomfortable like starting offense against somebody that's trying to play defensively or play reactive.
No, not really. It kind of just gives me a chance to kind of, in some ways, establish like what else they might try to do. Because at that point, I might try throwing like our arch fireball and see like how they react to that. Because some people like they try to jump it, or some people forget about it because like the roundhouse one goes off the screen like at the top of its arc.
Yeah.
So I'll throw it, and some people don't look at it, and then they'll just get hit by it. So yeah, I don't really mind it at all. It's like, I mean, in like even especially like the JP match, a lot of them like to walk back, and I'm like, you do know I can like teleport in and be in your face like right now, right? And like I found a lot of success actually with that recently in terms of them trying to start up, all the stuff that they're doing, and instead of me even like attempting to do a normal, it'll just be like normal teleport, and I can get like a punish counter throw or a counter hit throw from there.
Okay. Well, we have to get ready to enter this tournament coming up here in 5 minutes, so I'm going to call the show here. So what'll happen is we're going to keep on the line here, and then anybody that wants to listen to an absolute extra, we'll make a separate video of that, and you'll be able to hear us more in a more natural state, as like just shooting the shit during the tournament, and you'll get an understanding of like what a online tournament with buddies sounds like for us here in Arizona. But for now, we'll go ahead and conclude this episode. Any shout outs, Thrasher? We'll start with you.
Yeah, shout outs to my wife for 15 years, She'll kill me if I don't say that. So, shout outs to Jon, Velociraptor, for running these tournaments. TGZ guys for keeping our scene alive and running tournaments as well. Rest in peace, Contender. We miss you already. Thanks for having me on again. It's been a lot of fun. It's always good to hang out with you guys. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool. How about you, Chase? Parting words?
Yeah, I guess just shout out shout out both Johns, Porter John, Velociraptor. Thanks for, run the tournaments and just, the whole AZ scene in general. Shout outs to my team for the team tournament. We fucking won, so we're sick. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. All right. Well, you can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Spiral Series, YouTube at youtube.com/Spiral Series, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify under Absolute Guard. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.